Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the Mighty Jingles. For today's audio-visual extravaganza, we have a Tier 8 standard battle here on the Tundra map, starring Unit GX48 in the Japanese Tier 8 super heavy tank, the Oho! And I know it's not that funny, but I just can't not say it like that. I don't know why. And yes, Unit has Warhammer 40k Orc skin on his tank, and I have made a big fuss and a song and dance in the past about wildly inappropriate skins on vehicles in World of Tanks. But honestly, for some reason, and I realise that your mileage may vary, but this one just seems to work. I think if it had been on anything other than a Japanese super heavy, it would have looked out of place, but here, I like it. Anyway, Unit's tank, the Oho! It's had a bit of an unfortunate history in World of Tanks. When it was first introduced into the game, along with the other Japanese super heavies, it was alright, it was fine. It had, well, you see those mini turrets at the front. They could seriously limit the frontal gun depression to as little as 3 degrees at certain angles, which was not good. The tank's armour was thick, but as you can see it's all very slab-like. There's very little, in fact just about zero sloping or angling on it. And it worked as long as it was top tier. It doesn't have any frontal weak spots, which was nice, but anything higher tier is going to penetrate the armour. The reason the tank worked was because while the two 100mm guns were pretty awful, it had a 150mm derp gun, which was hilarious, as all derp guns used to be. But then came the dark times. The gun itself got nerfed. I think they added something like 5 seconds to the reload. And then they nerfed high explosive altogether because you're not allowed to have fun in this game. And this tank just became a parody of itself. It became the most frustrating and worst Tier 8 tank in the game. Recently, however, things have improved with the addition of this 127mm gun with 460 alpha damage. Still has a slow reload, but it's a gun that actually works and makes this tank fun to play again. It still has everything else that was wrong with it. I mean, the mobility is awful. We never mentioned the mobility, but as a Japanese super heavy, obviously the mobility is awful. The 25km/h top speed. The armour is still monolithic slabs of metal, which is thick, but not thick enough, and as Unit here is doing, you have to angle to make it effective. It still has the 3 degrees of gun depression over the front at certain angles because of those little mini turrets, but, well, if you're angling properly, you're basically shooting over the side where the gun depression isn't that bad. And it still doesn't actually have any frontal weak spots, which is great if you're top tier. It's almost irrelevant if you're not. In a tier 9 or 10 battle, you're going to have tanks that have sufficient penetration that they don't care about no weak spots. But this is not a tier 9 or 10 battle, and as you can see Unit doing, angle this tank effectively, and the armour is actually pretty good. And also, you don't have to worry about the 3 degrees of gun depression over the top of those mini turrets. Things were going pretty badly for Unit's team at first. They're not going especially well for his team right now, but the early losses were on Unit's team and it was beginning to look pretty bad. But then they pulled it back, and once again they've equalised the kills at 6 apiece. The enemy team actually have the advantage here, because there's only really him and one platoon mate up here. But they all appear to be trying to shoot from the top of the ridge over there, rather than rushing, swarming and overwhelming Unit. Then again, they did just go 4 kills ahead, so it's working for them. Who am I to complain? You know, at some point, and sooner rather than later, they're going to run out of things to shoot, and they're going to have to come over here and deal with Unit. Despite the kill disparity, I mean, they are 4 kills ahead. The hit point difference, there's nothing in it. Which means that, well, we're looking at a lot of enemy tanks on very, very low health. And, well, the Unit, of course, still has all of his hit points. And in the oh, that's a lot of hit points. There's another 2 kills there. The enemy team now have half of the hit points of Unit's team. Admittedly, most of the hit points on Unit's team are on Unit himself. And he's going to want to maintain that advantage and start actually using those hit points. So he takes the gold AP from the Pershing. Well, it's an Eagle 7, which is basically a Pershing. And now he and his platoon mate in the ISU are going to attempt to, well, are in fact going to finish off the remaining enemies on the hill. There goes the Super Hellcat. There's still a, I don't even know how you pronounce that, a Govika up there, trading shots with the ISU. They need to get it killed before it can finish off his platoon, mate. Lovely. It was only 6 damage, but you could not afford to let that thing get another shot off. Right, they're still trailing by 1 kill. There's only 3 of them left. And of course, the second I open my big fat stupid mouth, the ISU gets finished off by the enemy Crusader SP. So they're outnumbered 2 to 1, but the hit point totals are more or less exactly the same. And again, almost all of those hit points are being carried around by unit here. The other surviving tank, the T-29, is cut off, isolated, and very, very low on health. And while the Oh-Ho did get buffed substantially in recent months, one thing that didn't get touched was its god-awful mobility. It still only has a 25 km/h top speed, and that is nowhere near good enough to cross half the map and come to the assistance of the T-29. So he is now the last surviving player on the team against 4 enemies. But he has more hit points than those 4 enemies, and he's going to need every last one. So he's facing 2 artillery. One of them's that Crusader SP who's on 3 kills, and the top armour on this thing is only 60mm, so the artillery is a threat. He's also facing a Rheinmetall Borsig with 2 kills, and the gun on that thing can penetrate him from any angle. The Juto, not so much a threat. It's another Japanese heavy, it's a tier 7. There's the Borsig. We'll come back to the Juto in a moment. Took the hit from the Borsig, which did not penetrate. To be fair, the Borsig's gun does have good penetration, but there are certain points on the front of this thing that even the Borsig's gun cannot penetrate, and it does have to aim for weak spots. Well, I say weak spots, places where the armour isn't quite as monolithically thick. Oh, there's the Juto. But either way, the Borsig is no longer an issue. The Juto, it's a tier 7 Japanese super heavy, and it has the mobility advantage. It's not fast by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have a speed of 35 km/h compared to the Oh-Ho's 25. It just doesn't have as good a gun. It has a 105mm that will struggle against the unit's armour. So unit finds himself in the unfortunate situation of having to play chasey chasey, catchy catchy, killy killy around a great big rock against a tank that is significantly faster than he is. At the same time, while the Juto doesn't really want to get shot at by this monstrous 127mm high alpha damage gun, he's going to need the support of his friendly artillery in order to deal with unit. Well, there's one less artillery that he's going to have any support from. There goes the Crusader SP. Yeah, the Juto should have been attempting to keep units spotted, because he was going to need every bit of support from those 2 artillery in order to take him down. And I realised that, yep, that is significantly easier said than done when you're facing unit's 127mm gun with its 230mm of penetration. But it's what the Juto needed to do, and he didn't. And now he's dead, which means the school bus is in the very unfortunate situation of trying to take on an Oh-Ho with basically all of its hit points, and he's probably only going to get 1 shot on which to do it, which may be asking just a teeny bit much of that very unfortunate Su-14 left hanging by his teammates' inability to work together as a team. And so, the first class mastery badge in a tank that until relatively recently was so bad that a performance like this would have been a contender for Game of the Year, which is a pretty good indication, if ever there was one, of just how badly this tank needed that 127mm gun after the nerfs that destroyed its glorious 150mm derp, without offering anything in the way of compensation other than the existing pair of grossly inadequate 100mm guns that wouldn't have been that good on a medium tank. Unit GX-48. In the Japanese Tier 8 Super Heavy, the Oh-Ho, it's no longer completely dogshit. And there's a glowing recommendation if ever I heard one. Hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.